Afro-pessimism as a thought becomes less relevant in a world that is built on the dismantling of oppression.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dugout. We are officially crossing the finish line for season 2, which has been amazing. And Jordan and I have kind of planned these last few episodes to really be reflective and commemorative. I can say definitely listening through this interview, which is going to be these next 2 episodes, which is me interviewing Jordan and Jordan interviewing me. It's been a great moment of reflection, both for our friendship, for being comrades, for working on this podcast together. And each year that we do this podcast, I think we're just kind of surprised by the reach it gets, who it resonates with, how much people are resonating with what we're trying to offer. And this conversation covers a lot of ground. We get to learn a lot about Jordan, their upbringing, what kind of lessons and guides shaped their politics when they were younger, from a college professor that recommended that they read Marx to being flashbanged by police during the George Floyd protests of 2020. And we also talk about martyrdom, some of their favorite books. We have some giggles. I get a little too crossfaded partway through. And it's just a sweet time capsule memory moment. So I can't wait for y'all to listen. And just for some context, this interview with me interviewing Jordan is going to come out. And then we also have an episode where Jordan interviews me. And then we have a sort of final season 2 reflection episode. So stay tuned for those. Just as a message for me, thank you to everyone that's been listening to the podcast this year. Thank you to everyone who shared it with anyone that you know. Thank you to anyone that's used it as an educational resource. We are in really intense times, and it's not like I have all of my own answers figured out. I have a lot of things synthesized in my head, but this podcast has been a very centering space. It's definitely brought me and Jordan closer together, and yeah, I'm just grateful to be here. So buckle up for this episode. And as always, if you want to support the podcast, check out our website, thedugoutpodcast.com. Find us on social media or on Patreon. And you can find all of that in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and please enjoy this interview. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dugout, a Black Anarchist podcast. Today, we have a very special episode. I'm excited. As you can probably tell from the title, the co-hosts are interviewing each other. So there's going to be this episode where I interview the illustrious Jordan, and then they're going to release an episode where they interview me. So buckle up. We kind of decided to do these episodes as a couple of episodes that are kind of like a season 2 end cap, and it feels like a good space to reflect. And it's been nice to prepare for this because I've been re-listening to old episodes and giggling. And there's even an episode I was listening to this morning. And it's also just funny behind the scenes listening to episodes. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's what Jordan was going through around then. Because there was one episode where you were like, oh, I'm kind of sloshed right now. And I was like, what night was that? First on the agenda is to give you your flowers. I wanted to give you a few praises, a few compliments. For people that are listening, I would say the experience of knowing Jordan is very endearing, chaotic, but in like a really fun way. And I also love people that have vast pools of knowledge in their head, and depending on the conversation, usually it's relevant, but sometimes I'm like, what? And then I have to listen and kind of understand more. And I'm like, oh, so that's where. And so I've found that really fun. And I also just appreciate finding a comrade in you as someone that I've met in different capacities. And I think this project has given me a deep respect for how much you study, how much you read, the things you commit yourself to, how clear those commitments are. And it's also helpful working on something with someone where we are both committed, but there's different styles, even with interviewing. And so I've learned a lot. And so I wanted to say thank you first, and for everyone listening. And so my first question is who are you?
Everyone knows this is why I don't get grant money, because I hate answering this question. I'm a guest on this podcast. It's a mindset I'm trying to put myself in. So I'm Jordan. I am someone who reads a lot, cooks a lot, and really enjoys music and art and consuming different kinds of art and the stories that they're trying to tell and why people are trying to tell those stories and through what medium and what struggle it took to tell that story emotionally, materially. Those are all things that very intrigue me because I'm very curious at every point in history how art sustains itself and how artists are sustaining themselves in that particular time in history. And it's really fun to study that because then I can also watch my friends doing what they're doing now and what I'm doing. As I flip between calling myself the undegreed artist, journalist, archivist, researcher, pick a title. I might pretend to know how to do it for 3 months.
It's so wild to me sometimes when I hear you describe yourself, because recently I asked Jordan how many instruments they play, and you said
It's
like,
got strings.
but you said like 10. And I was like, girl, that's things that geniuses say.
Yeah, I was going to go into I was going to go into music education up at Bowling Green because they have like a 100% hiring rate for their music education program. And I was a viola player and composer and wanted to write musicals, film music, and was really into like composition and all that stuff. But
What do you get out of doing music in the different ways that you do? Like, how does it feed you?
it's very therapeutic. I love how it can start as something that I can hear from any conversation through a rhythm, any walking, any falling of the natural environment around me, the way my heart beats, and process it with people or internally and sit with it for a really long time. And just, it's a process that I can tediously repeat without it becoming like an annoyance to myself. And it's something that when I do have those breakthroughs or find what I'm looking for or find something I didn't even know I was looking for, it really sparks an immense amount of joy and inspiration to keep going and sharing that. And then also the aspects of performance and even like in directing or being a part of performance is, I don't know, like another collaborative process that like is where I feel that like my creativity shines the most, has always been in collaborative spaces. And I feel like music is one of those that even when you're like a solo artist, it is one of the most collaborative experiences.
I was making a video earlier and talking about how direct action to me in a lot of ways is like a play or like something in a theater. Like everyone has their role, and even if it's a solo show, you still like need the sound person and then someone to check people at the door or whatever. And so I feel like that's it makes a lot of sense. Another question is something we ask all of our guests is, what was a young Jordan like?
I was a young anti-authoritarian.
Oh, okay.
No, but for real, I mean, I was literally diagnosed when I was young with oppositional defiance disorder. So like the actual diagnosis was a defiance against authority for no seeming reason.
But you always had a reason, right?
No.
Okay.
But it's just calling me a young hater. Like they didn't know what to do. Like that's all it was. Like I was a young hater. I was mad. And but when you do have reasons to dislike authority, and those never get justified alongside in the same ways that I don't even know, the inverse of what I was just saying happens. Like there's no way as a kid to differentiate. So it's just like, why would I listen to any of this? I don't like remember having that exact mindset until I was like 10. But that was extremely bad for my mental health. I mean, I was a very sad kid, but that led, and other decisions and carcerality led to being an inpatient for like 11 months when I was 11 in like 2012. And then eventually got out of that because ended up kind of organizing in a way to get my caseworker fired. And then once he got fired, I got released the next month. I got a new caseworker. She was like, "What the fuck was this paperwork?" Like,
because didn't you say like you would like have complaint forms on the ready for other people, and you wanted to make the process easier? So yeah, it kind of reminds me of you mentioning that.
Yeah, I would have it filled out with certain like employees' names already ready, or certain people on the block I didn't like ready.
That's smart as fuck.
That and
that's Quintel Pro.
It's like that and a comb. They called me Stabby back then too. Because I was at that point too, like 3'8", like maybe 4'1". I was a really short kid.
Oh my god. That's the sad short kid.
I was a really sad short kid. But then I got out, continued my little education, got into some more trouble, went into the foster care, and while I was in foster care, my mother died. But just all of that was just always still like running away, finding friends, trying to do my own thing. I was still obsessed with being a physicist. Like since I was like 9, like I wanted to be a physicist until like my senior year, and then was like, I need music. That's the vibe that I'm just gonna teach and then do other things. And then led to philosophy. So,
oh wow,
I realized all the questions I wanted in physics were actually just like metaphysical questions.
But what was your entryway into philosophy? Was it like a certain text or idea or like an experience in your life, or philosophy was kind of a way for you to process, or how did you get to it or find it? Because I find that interesting.
I don't know. I was always a big reader. So I think I always spent a lot of time in bookstores and in libraries. And philosophy texts were just around. I also had like edgy friends, and some of them had like friends that were older that were reading like long books. Like I had friends that would like bring in the whole collection of like Socrates or like all of Sherlock Holmes when we were in like 4th grade or something like that, and be like, I'm reading this. Like I had those kind of
what school did you go to where you had these kind of friends?
We had a clique of like, this was like
Y'all
the edgy smart kid clique that was like, I read Harry Potter in
the smart
2 weeks.
Weirdos. Okay, what? 2 weeks?
That was
oh my God.
That was me.
Oh, wow.
But that's just because
I wish I could have hung out with your crew.
Okay, one thing also is I was very obsessive. That is something that
about what?
For like 11 months, I loved the color purple to the point that it was like weird. And my mom was like, this has to be like an issue. Reading was obsessive to me. Like I read Harry Potter in 2 weeks in like 4th grade.
Okay.
And
what did you think of the series in the 4th grade?
I really enjoyed a large, expansive world that was easy to think about and put myself into and walk around. I feel like I was always a big daydreamer, so having stories to put myself into in other worlds was so much my pride and joy.
Okay. Did you, when you read the series, did you like the fact that Hermione and Ron ended up together?
I didn't dislike it. The one thing I didn't like was Harry and Jeannie.
Okay.
I thought that was weird. I thought that was weird.
Like you didn't think they had chemistry, or it was forced, or that you wanted him to. You wanted him to.
She was just like a little girl.
Did you want him to be Harry to be with Hermione, or that other weird girl Luna Lovegood?
Ooh, I wanted to be with Luna Lovegood.
Because Luna Lovegood, I was like, you're weird. I like it.
Yeah, and those like Luna Lovegood was like my friends in middle school, and like definitely the people that I ended up attaching myself to.
Okay. Wow, I'm learning so much. I didn't know you read Harry Potter in 2 weeks. That's absolutely nuts because I tried to write that fan fiction that I think I mentioned and I barely made it through Goblet of Fire.
Ooh, that was one of my favorite ones. And then Order of Phoenix was my favorite.
Yeah.
I reread that one
I
over
like
again.
the movies, but I think reading the books, I just felt dumb.
Like, and then of course you already know I had so many questions. I'm like, what part of London is this? Like, what? I don't know. And then I even reading the books, I was like, so we have the same language systems? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's why I struggle to get into deep lore stuff now because
Okay.
I feel like I don't have the brain for that like I used to.
Yeah.
And I really am jealous of young me's obsession with reading for a minute there. Like, I've definitely been able to keep with my drive for reading and enjoying it, but I used to stay up all night oscillating between reading and burning crayons on my lamp.
So you were this voracious reader, obsessive in many ways with your hobbies, very oppositional to those in authority. I imagine in a lot of ways, maybe rightfully so. When did politics or organizing kind of come into the picture? Like I know, of course, in a lot of ways, like 2020 was like a very sharp period of time for you. But could you kind of like talk about what that period of time means to you now and how you now looks at what you were working through then, like or even how you identified politically?
Yeah, I would say coming out of high school was I graduated early 2020, right before
Ugh.
things locked down. And that was because like luckily I'd like doubled up in some of my classes, like my necessary classes before in the years prior, so I could graduate like a couple years early if I went to like the alternative school and like did some classes online, kind of. Um and that was at a point I was like I was having extremely terrible mental health episodes and a really unsupportive familial system from authority. My siblings were very supportive and would like help me with my parents. Um, but that kind of led to like a loss of housing. And at that point, I was working at Roosters and like a little chicken joint for those that aren't initiated. I don't eat there, so this is not a Roosters ad.
Okay.
Because if I can't make it, I'm not gonna eat it. And that's when I was like working there, ended up moving out of my parents' house, just graduated so that I didn't have to just drop out. I was like I was like, okay, I'm on my own. I'm living with my coworkers and their family. I'm doing a lot of drugs, kind of bohemian. I'm driving around late at night, high as fuck, 24/7 coffee shops.
Were you reading around that time? Like what were you reading?
I was like just like wanting to get into politics. So I was like reading as much news as I could. And I remember like I was reading like the Times, the Economists, anything that seemed important to kind of like get a read on different things that was happening. There were people around me that were very like progressive or even like conservative, but like moderate and I don't know, like very liberal and classical liberal in like the old sense and the new sense. And that's kind of where I found myself, not really knowing how to identify politically. Kind of like, I don't know, I kind of came up and saw people like identifying with things online so heavily and was like, that's weird. Like,
Why?
I was just like, I was like, how can we be one thing forever? That was my philosophy brain, where I was just like, I think that we're going to be in transition and need to be in constant communication with that transition if we're going to name it, and then we can name it in that points. But I don't think it can be nameable and observable and true at the same time. And that was a very absolutist, materialist way of thinking. Like, I was really into physics for the way of like, it helped me with like things around identity and like the states of things. And that's when I realized, yeah, no, this is all just like, I'm interested in physics and psychology and like how it can verify certain like philosophical or sociological things, but I didn't know how to research that when I was younger.
Yeah.
As much. But so I'm just working. I'm kind of like, I know I love to cook. This might be my life, either that or writing. I was thinking of going English major, but fucked up a bunch of college stuff. One of my college professors like recommended I read Marx.
Oh yeah, I think I remember you mentioning that before. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got into political theory. But in 2020, that was before I read Marx, and I was just working all night at Roosters. It was like a all black shop down in German Village. And we were like talking about what was happening downtown because we were in the middle of our shift, or we're just about to shift, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go down after. And I'm like, oh shit, everyone's gonna go down to the protest? Okay, let's close up. We gonna close up early. Okay, we gonna smoke weed early. We gonna get out. And by the end of it, everyone was like, nah, I actually gotta go take my kids to work in the morning, or I gotta go do this or that. I was like, okay.
Because a lot of your coworkers were older, they had families. Okay.
Yeah. And especially like a lot of the black men that were there, they were like, yeah, no, we're gonna go down, man. If I see a cop, man, let's go, man. Fuck this shit. Like, it's been too long. And I was like, you know what? Let's go down. Let's see what's happening. Like, what is all this about? Because I was just like, oh, there's protests happening. I didn't really have an image of protests in my head.
Okay.
And yeah, next thing I know, I just go down. I find a place to park. I'm down there for like 20 minutes. I turn a corner, boom, flashbanged. Me and like 5 other people. We help each other gain our senses on the side of the sidewalk. Somebody's just standing in the middle of the street, and the cops are like, 6 of them are like berating them and like about to beat the fuck out of them and being like, for being in the street and being like, get on the sidewalk.
What time was it when that happened?
I got off work around probably like 11 or midnight.
Okay.
Like that's when I went down to the protest.
Yeah, that point of the night, it was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, so I just went down there. I started wandering around. My phone died. I had to call my roommate to come pick me up. And then I went down again. And kind of same shit happened. I went down with more of my roommates this time, but during the day, and then roommates got shot in the leg.
Was that the day where it was like
we marched with the police?
Oh, you were at that one too? Wait, I wonder. Okay, I
remember being at a march.
Oh, I think was that the one where it ended, and then there were a bunch of journalists on the streets.
It ended with, all I know is my friend got hit in the leg directly with one of the rubber bullets, and we had to like triage his leg and then get him home. Okay. And then
maybe it was a different one I'm thinking about. Okay.
I was like, wow, this is crazy. Why are we with the chief of police?
Yeah,
and then the next thing you know, we're getting shot at. I was like, what is happening?
Wow. Do you remember the day where it was in the short north and it was like near, like, what's that restaurant with all the pillars before you cross the bridge and go to like North Market or whatever? But it's like
it's on Goodale, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I remember there was a day in the short north where basically the people were trying to march, and then the cops were trying to push everyone back in the further up the short north in the street. That was like a really pivotal day in my mind. Yeah, 2020 was.
Yeah, I only went those 2 days.
Those 2
really?
Nights. Oh, wow! It's so wild.
And then I like bought a bunch of gear to go again, and then no one I knew went again, and that's when I realized I needed to get organized.
Wow, it's so wild to think of how different that chunk of time was for each of us.
Then I was working and watching YouTube political videos and reading more. I joined the Morgan Harper campaign.
Okay.
First one. And then I joined Mutual Aid Street Society because me and my friend were like, oh, we're going to join Food Not Bombs. And then Mutual Aid Street Society happened, and I was like, these people look cooler. They're doing the same thing, but also helping out with drug users. And it seems like they also are drug users. I was like, that's my gang. And then we went, and I found folk.
And how did you identify politically at the time, or did you not? Or was it like you're moving through life and you're having various realizations, but it's
moving through life and having various realizations, I feel like was it for me, because I was never like, I'm a Marxist, I'm a Maoist. I didn't know that like that's what people. I still like I knew that that's what people did, but I wasn't like in real life. That's not how people around me were moving, and that's also because I realized I guess I was trying. A lot of socialist orgs were trying to inundate me with certain things.
Because they saw you out and they were like, we need that one.
Yeah, and then I joined Sunrise.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I think I've said this before, but then I found, like, really started reading more seriously anarchist political philosophy from indigenous anarchists after having to do, like, we did at the beginning of each meeting, we did a land acknowledgement, and they would have to, each member was a rotating person that had to do like a 5-minute presentation on indigenous history. It didn't even have to be from where we were.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just because it was Ohio and the history is a bit harder, but I don't know. That seems like a bit of a cop out. A lot of people did do Ohio history, but I did a Matisse history one about the reconciliation process that was happening, and read some indigenous anarchists talks about the reconciliation process, and I was like, this is how you stand on business politically, and really appreciated like that.
Was that around the time you read Klebanali?
Very shortly after that, then I would have.
And
Voting is not harm reduction.
And what resonated with you about their work when you got into it and read more of it?
I think it's that they wanted to teach you history. Wow. Like it was something that it really responded to me, because I feel like there's a lot of history that we need taught in the United States. And there's not a lot of good ways to get that information in. And I really appreciated how Clee would offer up the wisdom of others and cite them and have it flow through their work in a really nice way. It's like it's like reading an essayist versus reading an academic article.
Okay.
It's like in the academic article, it's like, I will explain to you point A, point B, and then I will give you example 1, example 2. And the essayist is like, an example 2, point 1 is made and it contradicts point 2 in example A, and this or that. And
there's maybe more of a subjective engagement with what's being explored. Yeah. And I feel like moving through time, or the ability to move through time in a way that is more intimate. I was just reading some of No Spiritual to Surrender to Our Friend, and they really liked it. And they were like, I got to use this for my research. And I was like, talk to Jordan.
I would love, I have a copy somewhere, or I gave it away. But there's many more copies to come my way.
Give us a few of your organizing pet peeves.
It really annoys me when, like, there's people that say, and I kind of agree with this sentiment, that you don't have to be friends with everyone you organize with. And I fully agree, but also, like, there's levels to this shit. And I also think about, like, with what Rachel was saying in one of our last interviews, with like, your comrades are everything. And like understanding and bringing in like that verbiage, like, what is a comrade, or it's the Kurdish, what is a haval, or, and like Abayalo, what is a campa, compañero, compañera, what is a friend, what is these different dynamics. And I don't know if there's just like something about me is like, there's a level of professionalization that we're fighting against, that influences this culture in organizing spaces, but also like, and it's fucking up like what I mean, like a certain level of, I don't know. I think like being honest with what a structure is for and who it's for and why it's activated and why it's active. Because there are some formations that you're not gonna like everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a way to operate within that and to like operate, especially like extremely organized within those you are in community with and accountable for. And then there's structures where we all are intimately engaged, either financially, economically, materially, or even like in the larger structures where coalitions where I don't like everyone. That might just be because like me and my neighbor have to fight against our landlord. There's a certain level of
survival.
Yeah, and peacemaking there, but at certain levels. And that doesn't mean like accept the racist neighbor when you have to fight the landlord or certain things like that. But especially if that behavior keeps happening, that's something to organize around for other people.
Because that person could be a harm to whoever. Yeah.
Which is why I'm like trying to understand like what exactly my pet peeve is around that. And I guess like my pet peeve is some of the weaponization around that. Because some of the weaponization around that, people use it to shut down any sort of accountability process in a space, being like, we're not all supposed to be friends here. What I said wasn't nice because I don't need to be nice to people. This isn't a nice space. If you wanted safe protesting, or you wanted safe language, then you should go somewhere else. But this is where the work gets done.
Yeah, I take that as like I've organized in spaces with people where I'm like, oh, you think being honest also means not caring if you come off as condescending? And maybe I'm too much of a people pleaser in certain ways, but I'm like a defense mechanism. But I don't know. I do feel like I understand that as like I've seen people be condescending and it's tied to something systemic. Guess you could say that, but I don't know if this doesn't make you kind of mean. And it's not because you're this identity. It's because you're being kind of mean.
Yeah. And I guess it also can get weaponized, or it also can be stretched in other ways to invite involvement in a group where the trust is not built in each other's lives. That might not be the point of the coalition. And I just think that's why I'm like, I think back to like, there's the Black Rose Rosa Negra put out like a manifesto platform thingy, and in it they talk about like 3 types of organizations, like a mass organization, your affinity group, and like maybe like a cadre or like some other type of like organization. And like there's more to break down and into that I find that very useful in being like, what is the level that I have between the different affinity groups I have? And that's also like the same to say that when affinity groups merge, trust isn't just like automatically there because like 2/3 of the people there know each other. What you did there would just create a minority of people that don't know each other as well. And unless work is done to build that and do that, and then that's building a larger and different type of communication system for a whole thing. And
I mean, it's interesting because I think what comes to mind with a lot of what you're saying about like friends and comrades, and then like how people treat each other, and then what is assumed when different configurations come together. And I guess I just keep thinking about where is the intimacy and how people share space and why. And it's like, if some people know each other or some people are aligned on a certain identity or a certain life experience, I don't know, in some ways you automatically build a certain intimacy with someone. But then if it's someone who seems very different than you, but you intentionally kind of spend time with them, or you do one-on-ones, or maybe you're watching movies at a movie club, but then they end up loving the same movie you do. And you're like, what the hell? What else do you like to watch? Or whatever it is. And that's where the time or the commitment and spending time with each other makes those other intimacies possible. Yeah. Also in like what I hear in some of what you're saying, when I've met some people who are really committed to the work, but they don't offer up different versions of intimacy, or they only offer up one kind. That's one version of where I think people keep each other at a distance.
And I'm very curious in the modes and structures that are participatory and democratic, but are accessible for the hermit, the antisocial. That's my thing. I want to build socialism with antisocial tendencies.
With the wallflowers.
Yeah.
Wallflower Club.
Yeah, because that's always something that I remember in community conversations that have come up is like people being like, how do I organize with my neighbor who doesn't want to come out of their house or talk to us or do anything? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like they're not a threat. Do they not like you? Like, how is their social behavior hurting you or the process of this campaign? Do you want to know them more? If so, personal relationships is something that I don't think is the whole organizational thing. And then like people would come up with schemas of like, maybe they can put up a small like lending library out on their front porch. I'm like, you just created labor for them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe that is what they want
And
to
they
do.
might be
Maybe
like,
it's
what
not.
the fuck is this? I hate reading.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is why people leave cities. This is why people are like, I'm going to go to suburbia or the urban place so I can just be alone and away from people who want to be in my business. And I'm like, relatable, but I also love the city and the collectivism and the resources. So how do we do that and have it be accessible for the once in a while is the, hey, and I see you people, the, I tip my hat to you.
That is interesting you say that because it makes me think about different organizing groups I've been in, or even like being in meetings and noticing who talks more and who doesn't, or who talks in certain situations, or like the people it's important to be like maybe debrief with and be like, hey, how are you feeling? Or be very specific with what you ask them, or just, I don't know, like there's so many, I feel like there is so much attention that goes into, I guess, being a comrade and a community member, I guess. Because when I think comrade, I think it seems so intimate, direct, but being a community member is more like how you share space with the larger collective. When I think of the words even, or like comrade, friend, to me, a comrade is like, it's more of like a secretive part of your life or more intimate or something. But a friend is like, oh, we're friends in the daylight. I don't know.
It can mean different things for different people. To me, it definitely carries a bit of a weight. There's also, I think, like a universalism to it as well. As long as you're on the side of freedom, you're a comrade.
Mm-hmm.
And that minimal barrier.
Mm.
But still, I don't think that's why I'm like, even more language, especially like in the States, I think has to be evolved.
Yeah, it's like maybe the planet is our comrade. And that means we learn to treat it better. We build an intrinsic respect. We offer it a certain egalitarianism that maybe we don't offer other parts of our lives. And then that kind of extends to like the people around us who are also resources to extract from. Our podcast is a tool for learning, and we're taking it further on Patreon. By supporting us, you'll gain access to exclusive reading episodes where we unpack key texts and ideas, plus early access to interviews with radicals and revolutionaries. Your contribution helps to make these resources more accessible and impactful. Visit patreon.com/The Dugout Pod to support our work. Okay. I have a few rapid fire questions. So are you prepared?
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to answer these quickly, but I am interested in getting a few of these through. If you could share a meal with any ancestor, who would it be? And what would you cook?
Yeah, that was a hard one. You said rapid fire. Well, my first answer is my grandfather. I'm trying to think of what I would cook, and like the thing, like that's what's taking the hardest to answer because there's like 8 different things coming in my head, like steak, casserole, like definitely like some creamy pasta with a white sauce, and a lot of oatmeal cream pies because he loved those, and peanut butter, and like everything to his heart's fucking desire.
Are oatmeal cream pies like the thing at the gas stations that you could get where it's like the oatmeal cookie and then there's the cream in the middle or something?
Yeah,
Wow.
he used to eat those and then put peanut butter on top of them and then eat it. And then he had a heart attack at like 26.
Oh my
But he
gosh.
survived.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, it made his art stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he survived another blip later on in life, and then another blip happened, and then he did not. Yeah, I always have this joke that I would go back in time and do heroin with my grandpa.
Oh yeah, I've heard you say that numerous times.
Yeah. But only if he wanted to. I just feel like he'd be a cool guy.
Yeah.
Like if I was gonna do heroin, it would be with my grandfather.
Yeah. 'Cause you also said like it was better back then or something, or
Yeah.
okay, or maybe I don't know, maybe that was something else.
No, I mean, I feel like I definitely said that. I just don't know if I really want to stand on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I wasn't there, you know.
Okay. Next rapid fire question. What's something, a major complaint about anarchism that you think a lot of people get right? And what's something that you think is like low hanging fruit that people just kind of say and is like, whatever?
What if they're the same thing? Okay, I would say the one thing that I hate that people say about anarchism that is right. I hate that. Okay, wait, no, should I say this? Oh, wait, never mind. I'm not gonna say that.
Okay.
I hate that people say that anarchists are not I hate that. Okay, this is what I'm saying. I hate that people say that anarchists don't care about revolution, because I know a lot of anarchists that don't care about revolution, and they're just kind of like, oh, like they're into like the long revolution, but to the point that they're not really doing much. A cycle of things for everyone. I have engaged with that tendency before and talked people in and out of it before. And then low hanging fruit is, I would say, just when people talk about violence, because there's a
like
lot
people
of
say
violence.
like anarchists only or care about violence or something.
Yeah, or like
Okay.
that there are violent tendencies within anarchism. And I'm like, if there's violent tendencies within everything in life.
Yeah, I'm like every part of the political fucking spectrum.
Like people are gonna then turn around and then say, "Oh, but then the world is violent, so we need to have the most violent state to do anything." And I'm like, wait.
There's draw a line in the sand. Okay, another rapid fire question. What's a moment in history that you wish you could have witnessed firsthand?
Holy shit! A moment in history I wish I could have witnessed firsthand. Bloody Kansas.
Oh, what's Bloody Kansas?
It's when John Brown and his fam went up to Kansas and killed a bunch of slavers that were trying to make slavery good out west.
I love that answer. Last rapid fire question. What is a book that you return to when you feel disillusioned or just kind of out of it? Is there a text that you return to?
Yeah, it's about this like factory worker lithography dude who also wrote a little bit of poetry, but had like these artist friends, and it's about his friend who wrote this book about him, and they were roommates at one point, and it's like kind of queer coded.
So it's a novel.
It's a biography kind of about his best friend. Kind of written through his perspective and how he observed his friend and them as artists through the city. And it's kind of why I'm obsessed with Prague and why I want to go to Prague is this book. And yeah, they were like kind of socialist, kind of Marxist. They were like factory workers, and they were like, they're doing like also lithography, and it would like make like pieces off of like stone that would come from work, and then like take the cracks and other stuff, or just cracks in the building.
Lithography, that's how people would make lettering for
lithography. It's like a carving and stamp and printmaking kind of thing.
Okay,
I don't know. I just butchered the description of lithography. I actually know I did. So sorry, lithographers.
Somebody tell us in the comments.
But it's really amazing and cool. And one of those, like, I'm obsessed. I love visual artists, but I have like barely an ounce of visual artistry in my body, and I'm okay with that. I just am enamored.
But you're getting better at the graphics.
Yeehaw.
So that C- just turned to a C++. One thing I wanted to ask is, from going back to different episodes and thinking of different interviews that we've done, I've noticed that there are like sort of two central themes that come up in different ways. And you often ask people, especially people that are involved super militant work or facing a lot of repression or have, you've asked a lot about grief and martyrdom, especially in relation to like liberation work. So what do these ideas mean to you in the work that you do? And what are you trying to kind of seek or learn from other people when you kind of bring that into the conversation? Why does that feel important?
I feel like it's such a universal feeling that any liberation movement I'm a part of, I want to make sure we have an open and flourishing conversation around it and never let it be hidden. One, because I've seen it be successful in other movements, and I think it links us to a lineage and a history that prioritizes uh, labors of love and of varying levels of commitment to an overall grand strategy of living in a more free and open world. Um, I think I think that it is a position also that people invested in anti-authoritarian thought should not cede, um, because it is something that's very emotional and spiritual and mental and so universal. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that you don't have to get religious to recognize what needs religion fills in a society.
Yeah.
Like, we think about death, everybody dies. We think about life and birth and morality and community around these things, and we join each other.
And I think in a similar way to how religion, among its other functions, it teaches us how to face death. Revolutionary struggle is also, that's one of the functions of it as well. Like, and if both require a belief system or can require a belief system around loss or create a series of systems, which systems are hurtful and which systems, I don't know, make us more human,
Mhm.
which I think is, yeah.
Yeah, I think it also, grief has a lot to do with, if you prioritize grieving, you have to have a good archive and a good memory. And you have to, like, there are things that it necessitates that you have rituals and a practice, and you don't let things go out of people's foundation of knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like grieving is the act of remembering in a way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're finding little nuggets for your artist statement.
My next book is just on grief.
Mhm.
My first book. Next book. I've never written a book.
Next book. I mean, man.
Actually, technically, I have written a book.
Yeah.
Or I've started a book.
Another question I have, because we have a few minutes. In a previous episode, one thing that you said, I had to rewind it, and I was like, wait, what the hell? I think it was when you were talking with Orange Filaments Network, and you
Organic Filaments Network.
Organic Filaments Network. Wait, what did I say?
Orange.
I'm kind of stoned. Sorry. You were like, what?
I was like,
okay. In that you said that Afro-pessimism creates itself out of the contradictions of whiteness and white supremacy and kills itself through Black liberation. That when Black people define ourselves outside of whiteness, white supremacy, colonization, Afro-pessimism as a concept begins to die. Can you talk a little bit more about this? How do you see this being possible in the moment that we're all in, especially like Black people, the diaspora?
we create networks to talk and share our history, knowledge, and resources together. As a people invested in liberatory and revolutionary struggle and a more anti-authoritarian socialist future, whatever that means. And I think in that we are able to create a new world, because Afro-pessimism is based on this world, but also the fact that many worlds are possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, because the anti-Blackness is at the foundation of the current the current mainstream white culture,
Mm-hmm.
that when that world and what finances it becomes less impactful in people's lives because there are better alternatives, and it becomes they're less incentivized to do so, whatever means that happens. That Afro-pessimism as a thought becomes less relevant in a world that is built on the dismantling of oppression and the dismantling of anti-Blackness, even through transitionary steps. And by that, I just mean like the process of getting rid of that is ending the white mainstream world, is ending a lot of that framework. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we picture and understand identity right now and currently, and how we are taking a step back in a really weird place historically with like getting out of cultural and collective identities and like what we decide to voluntarily associate with, and what are important functions for the basis of that association to become a collective with political and social capital. To not be like a nation or a nation state or a tribal thing or like ethnic organized or like moving beyond that. That would be the ending of whiteness in certain things. And I mean, as someone who's part white, I think about that all the time. Eventually America will be, some form of this culture will be on Turtle Island for forever. But it sure as hell, if I have anything to do about it, not going to look the same as it does now when it comes to the resource
There's
allocation.
going to be a little speck. What do you think doing this podcast has taught you? What have you learned along the way?
I think I've learned a lot about how I see myself fitting in to different media projects and the different things that I want to learn and focus on, and the things I need to do for myself to make that more possible and happen, and really help me crystallize that vision, which has been fantastic and very like confidence building. I feel like it's also taught me, I feel like it's taught me the benefits of being patient and intentional, in ways that like you can know these things and you can experience it, but I mean, the point is that it takes long to build something that you're truly proud of. And because of that simple fact, it doesn't happen all the time. So being able to have those moments of realization every once in a while has been something that I'm grateful for, and also makes me intensely inspired to move into some projects that are on my mind that I'm excited to try to give some energy to. Yeah.
Any last thoughts for the audience?
Any last thoughts for the audience? Well, there's probably a graphic out by now, but no. Yeah. Zine's not due until the 31st of December. So
There's time to put your submissions into the zine.
sorry to everyone who crammed their submissions in last minute. I know you were working hard. If you want to resubmit, you're more than welcome to. We appreciate everyone. My real last thought is I am so grateful to have this show with you, Prince, and excited to now hop into our interview. And then, excited for people to listen to that. Or if this one came out last and you already listened to it, whoa, what the fuck? How was it? I haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
So
I'm curious what future me is going to think.
same.